and we're having, as usual, our morning analysis. I want to welcome everyone. I hope you had a great weekend. I had a great one too. All right, so let's get started. More people will join us along the way. Good morning, Mr. Nyeti Akwan. All right, so as usual, we'll quickly have a rundown of the fundamentals, then we go straight to the charts to see what the technical also is saying. So we, have an overview of both. Good morning, Madam Onaji. Good morning, Mr. Okbelu Olawale. Peter Dan, good morning to you, sir. All right. So today, Monday, as you can see on the screen, I believe you can see my Forex Factory page. You can see there's no fundamental event for today, Monday, none at all. So, but what's the implication? It means the market may just run purely on technicals, but then I will still advise you trade with a lot of caution because usually fundamentals drive the market. When there's no fundamental, price may either be in a range or you have irregular movement. So still trade with a lot of caution. Last week, Friday, we had our NFP, but then the data didn't come out as expected. It was neither a buy nor a sell. If you joined live, that's why I said at the point, just close it. The trades were not triggered at all, and it wasn't stable. Well, the truth about live trading is that it's a function of the data release. No matter how good you are, the data determines. Uh, the data didn't move at all, so things didn't go our way. We had to close it. And like I said, I hope our next call will be better than that. So we didn't have any fault on our hand in that instance. But tomorrow, Tuesday, there's going to be core CPI, CPI monthly, CPI yearly tomorrow. So CPI is tomorrow, Tuesday by 1 p.m. Though the data will be released by 1:30, but we usually go live 30 minutes before the release of the data. Madam, are you saying there was CNY news by 2:30 a.m.? Well, that's nighttime. We don't trade that. We don't trade the CNY at all. So we're looking at CPI by 1:30 p.m. tomorrow. We'll create more awareness about it. Just make sure you plan to attend with your funded account. And like I said earlier, hopefully we should have a better outcome from this particular news. On Wednesday, please, as you join this class, just mute your device. I'm getting some slight distraction from those who are just joining. On Wednesday, we have the important news on Wednesday will be the core PPI and the PPI from the United States by 1:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Both combined could move the market. They are both high impact events. On Thursday, there will be there'll be a bank holiday from Switzerland. So we need to trade the CHF pairs with a lot of caution. But then there'll be GDP by 7 a.m. on Thursday. That will move the market. And simultaneously, both GDP and prelim GDP will take place on Thursday by 7 a.m. So we expect volatility on the British pound, due to this event. And later on Thursday, by 1:30 p.m., there'll be core retail sales and retail sales from the US, along with unemployment claims. So volatility is expected on the dollar again on Thursday. Though that same Thursday, the euro and the Eurozone will be on a form of a holiday. That's specifically French bank holiday and the German bank holiday. We need to trade the euro with a lot of caution on Thursday. And finally, on Friday, there's no fundamental again on Friday. So, 2 days this week, no fundamental event at all. But that Friday, I would advise, especially in the afternoon, also we trade with a lot of caution. A lot of caution. Morning may be okay, but afternoon, being that it's the end of the week, we should trade with a lot of caution on that day. All right. With that being said, let's go over to the chart and look at what the technicals is saying, for this week. All right, so I'm on the chart, and this is the dollar index on the weekly time frame. The overall strength for the dollar, the overall direction for the dollar, remains bullish. Though I'm seeing the possibility. Okay, let's go down to the daily. That's the weekly. On the daily time frame, price is trading around a support zone. It's been on this zone for quite some time. Price dropped back to that zone based on the NFP of last Friday. Just a second. My MT4 is not connecting to the internet, so I'm trying to sort that out. Let me restart it. Somebody is saying no sound. That won't be true. Please, if you have a video feed on, kindly put off your video feed. It's affecting the internet here. You don't need your video to be on, please. Okay, well, still not connecting, but I still opened it recently, so we still work with what we can see. All right, so price is still trading around the support zone on the daily time frame, and it's not been able to break out below it. Let me just get a confirmation from the mobile. Okay, while we're waiting for that, I think I have to continue. Let me go straight to the Euro USD. For the Euro USD, we can see there is a rising wedge pattern on the 4-hour time frame. Is an indication of a potential bearish breakout. Now, the week started with a gap, which you can see over there. Now, definitely price is going to fill up the gap and still reverse downwards. Gaps always get filled, but I say most of the time. Initially this was giving us a triple top pattern. But then, by and large, what we need most importantly is price breaking out of this pattern downwards for us to trigger a sell on the AUD, on the Euro USD, with RSI below 50 and MACD below 0. So we hold a bullish outlook on the Euro USD. Now, if you go back to the dollar index, actually we're expecting a reversal to the upside, being that price, closed at that support zone last Friday and it's forming a double bottom pattern. So dollar is bullish, and as such, we have a bearish outlook on the Euro USD for this week. Next I'll be looking at is the NZD. Okay, the GDP card first. The GDP card. Now for the GDP card, it's a high probability setup that is forming on this particular instrument. On the daily time frame, we can see we have an overall bearish outlook. Price is, bearish on the overall, and we have a resistance, which is an indication of a bearish outlook too. Now, on a close look, we can also see a head and shoulder forming here, but to be honest, that's not the focus for now. That is a futuristic focus. But if it works out, it's still an indication that price overall has a bearish outlook. But for now, let's just look at the trend line and the resistance. So from the point of the resistance, we'll be looking at a bearish breakout on the GBP card. Now, to support that bearish breakout, we already had a rejection candle. A rejection candle here on the 4-hour time frame. Price is trying to fill up that gap. So what we're going to be looking at here is possibly a neckline for a head and shoulder pattern. Price is trying to form a shoulder, a head, possibly a second shoulder, and then a final drop. So we hold a bearish outlook on the GBP card. On 4-hour, it's purely a 4-hour setup. So I've analyzed the Euro USD, I've analyzed the GBP card. Now for the Euro AUD, now for the big picture, the Euro AUD is actually a bullish outlook. But then at the moment, at the very, very recent moment, we have more of a short-term bearish outlook on the Euro AUD. And why do I say we have a bearish outlook on the Euro AUD? You can see on the weekly time frame, the last week candle closed as a rejection candle. That's a doji precisely. It closed as a doji on a support zone. Not only that, we have a trend line also to back up a proposed bullish breakout. So technically, we have a bullish outlook, and this may even end up forming a double bottom pattern. But then overall, we're bullish on the Euro AED. However, if we drop down to the 4-hour time frame, what we need is the breakout, which we have a trend line right here, a second trend line, and we're expecting a breakout. On the long term, it's bullish. But like I said, currently, what is available is a bearish trade. And why do I say that? We can see this rejection candle touching the trend line. Here we have a series of lower highs. Price is generally in the short term, lower high and lower low, lower high and lower low. So the next wave down will be a lower low because there's no sufficient strength to break out yet. You see, in technical analysis, we trade what we see. Overall bullish, but currently bearish. We have price trending downwards there. A rejection candle, a second rejection candle here that forms a resistance. Let me zoom out to show us clearer. We have a rejection candle. There's another one here. That region, and that rejection, the first one is touching the trend line. That's an indication that we may see price drop, and that could actually give us a clearer inverse head and shoulder here for a breakout to the upside. But for now, our focus is on the bearish movement. No matter how slight it is, we have a resistance here. So here we have a confluence, we have a downward moving trend line, we have a resistance and a rejection candle. We'll be looking out for a bearish movement on the Euro AUD. Now, I want you to watch this closely. It could break out in the course of today. On the minimum, price is expected to target Fibonacci 50 and Fibonacci 61.8. It could go beyond those levels, but that's the least that could happen. Price could target Fibonacci 50 at about 12 pips, 61.8 at about 24 pips. If the volatility is strong, it may go over to 78.6. So between 12 pips and about 40 pips movement is possible on the Euro AUD, possibly today. So we're bearish on the Euro AUD. Now the NZD USD, just like the Euro USD, we are looking for a bearish breakout. Now all this setup at the moment, they are swing related, except you have an intraday strategy to enter on a lower time frame. Now for the NZD USD, it's a swing on the weekly time frame. The overall trend is completely bearish on the weekly time frame, from the recent high that dates back to 2021 to the current candle, to the current weekly candle. So we have an overall bearish trend on the weekly time frame. And on the 4 hour, now what was forming here before the week started was a head and shoulder pattern. Shoulder, head, second shoulder, and a drop. But then the week started with a gap. Price might go ahead and fill up that gap, no problem. We can look at taking an entry. We still have this region as a neckline. Anytime price breaks out below this level, we can trigger a sell at least to the lower trend line. That can produce as much as about 30 to 35 pips movement. Mr. Awosu, please be mindful of your annotation too. It's distracting my class. So I'll be waiting for a breakout below the lower neckline region to trigger a sell on the euro, on the NZD USD. So we're bearish on the Euro USD, we're bearish on the NZD USD. Similarly, if you love to trade the AUD USD, we equally have a bearish outlook on the AUD USD. All right, I'll look at the BTC USD. Now, for the BTC USD, technically, I hold a bearish outlook, though I'm seeing something a little similar, different online, but then generally from technicals, I'll talk on what I can see. Now, on the weekly time frame, price has been around a support turned resistance. So technically, we should be looking at a bearish breakout. And on the 4 hour, okay, on the daily, we can still see there is an overall bearish trend, still support turned resistance. Then we have a rising wedge. So on the 4 hour, we'll be looking out for a breakout to the downside. We can see what looks a lot like a shoulder, a head, a second shoulder forming, which may trigger price to the downside. Purely technical. But what I'm seeing online is fundamental, as I last night was saying, possibly a bullish breakout. Well, if the fundamental would take precedence over this, which is very possible, then we may have price break this resistance to the upside to be a breakout, a retest, and a continuation to the upside. But for now, I'm maintaining my bearish outlook, except that changes. All right, that'll be all. Somebody was asking about gold. I'm sorry, I won't be able to take an analysis. Like I said, my MT4 is not updating. I don't know what's going on. I've refreshed many times, so I can't give you the ones I analyzed because I've done it over the night, and as at this morning, it's still the same. For other pairs, I can't see the current candles to know what actually is happening to them. So I would not want to give you an analysis that may not be so accurate. We might have to end this analysis session, here. It's a technical issue. I've refreshed the internet many times, but then the MT4 seems not to be coming up. I don't know what's going on. All right. We need to end the analysis here. Like somebody is asking if I'll drop the recorded version. Yes, of course, I'll drop it. Please watch it and try to practice some of the things we teach here so that you can improve in your trading. Do have a great week ahead. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a great week.
You're welcome.